Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Audi Velogames podcast, where it is our first Grand Tour, which is really exciting because this is kind of like the big shows. There's only 3 of them that happen in a year, and the Giro is the first one, and it's definitely a bit of an unprecedented one, with Tadej seemingly being the big favourite. And we'll talk about, well, whether he's worth it or not. He probably is, but we'll just talk about it anyway. I'm joined by Dan and Pedro today. I guess first thing is, how are you both finding this Giro selection phase?
I found it kind of easier than I was expecting. I was expecting Pogacar to be more expensive, simply because he is the outstanding favourite, potentially outside of the sprint stages for every stage. But I understand George probably priced it better to make it more accessible. But yeah, I'm very happy with my team at the moment, which I'm surprised by. I thought I'd have to leave someone out, but I haven't had to as yet.
It's pretty easy to pick a team, I guess, if you don't get stuck in a rider like I did. You know, if you just let go of one rider and just go for a strong team. But I think George gave us some pretty cool options, the 6 credit riders and stuff. So it's a pretty fun team to set up.
I guess do we want to take a look at the stages before we go look at Velogames, or do we not really mind?
Yeah, why not? At least we know what we're looking at.
So we got stage 1 and stage 2, which are pretty much just 2 GC days, and I think this really can influence your picks because it means that the GC guys are going to be getting those GC points immediately, and they might hold those for quite a long time. I guess outside of Poggy and a lot of the other GC riders, let's say, do you see anybody here who could be a bit like I don't know, like a puncher who might infiltrate in here in the first stage, like Alaphilippe, for example? Would you reckon he could make this, or do you think this is just a pure GC day?
I think Alaphilippe is the obvious one who won't be there by the end of the GC, but could take pink early. I do, though, like the AG2R team, the Decathlon AG2R team, because obviously they're all in for Ben O'Connor, but they've got some really good punchy options like Bodan and Vedram and the Pare Panther brothers. So, I mean, they probably won't have to control the whole race because Poggy will take the jersey back at some point. But, you know, they might get a stage win for themselves as well as being nice and cheap at 6 credits. So I don't mind that as an idea for the first couple.
I mean, especially the first day, I think it's possible to see some non-GC riders fighting, like maybe even a Bajoli in a good day. Let's say a Lutsenko, but it might be a GC guy, which I don't believe he will fight for GC. But yeah, I think there are some options in the first stage. The second stage, I think it will be GC.
So I think the reason why Pogacar is so good is that at the end of this first weekend, he could realistically be towards 500 points already if he wins both stages, the daily GC points, the mountains classification leading, and all the little bits and bobs that go along as well. So, you know, Pogacar's already gaining a lot of points. But you then have the rest of the first week has got, I would say, stage 3 is a sprint, even if there are some little hills in there towards the end. Stage 4 is a little bit kind of on the edge with the climb so close to the finish. And very similarly, stage 5 got this climb towards the end. What do you guys think about these? I think I want to pick your brains on this, because these climbs, what do you make of them? Do you reckon these are, you know, Merlier, Jakobsen, they're not making this? Is that your opinion on this, or do you think they can hang in there?
I think Coy's fairly safe for these ones. Coy and Milan, because we know they can climb well. Not to joke about it and make light about professional cyclists, but Jakobsen and Merlier, you know, they have a reputation for not being able to get over speed bumps. But they are probably 2 of the fastest if they do get there. I mean, I'm not particularly tempted to take a big name sprinter in my team anyway, but I mean, Milan is probably one of the favourites for the points classification. So, I mean, it's going to come down to how it's ridden as well, because that stage there, stage 4, with that sort of long drag all the way up, that's going to be a fatiguing day anyway. And you might even get that might even be a breakaway day if a big enough group gets away. So it's not as not obvious.
Yeah. Do you know what this stage 4 kind of looks like? Does it not look a little
Milan
bit
San Remo?
like San Remo? Yeah. Does it?
Yeah.
And
it probably looks harder than Milan San Remo, to be fair.
Except
obviously it's not 400 kilometers. But...
Yeah, it's true. In comparison, the Poggio is 3 something K at 3.8%, so it's a little bit steeper, but it is shorter. But it's the fact that it's like right. It's like
it's
a
got us descent guy. It's like if Bilbao was here.
Yeah. So this might not necessarily be a sprint. I mean, it wouldn't even surprise me if Poggi or an Alaphilippe or those sort of Milano San Remo names gave it a shot here and tried to stay away on the.
Yeah, it's got Alaphilippe written all over it, really, hasn't it?
I don't know how technical the descent is. If it's quite technical, somebody could definitely stay away. But this isn't. Yeah, it's not like a guaranteed sprint. Do you think so, Pedro?
If you're going with guys like Jakobsen and stuff, yeah, you're gonna do not great in this one. Even if they are there, even all three stages, if they are there with all the climbing, they might not be at the very best level. They'll be tired. Guys like Koy and Milan and Pitti are way more suited to these kind of stages.
Stage 5 is quite similar. The climb is a bit longer, but it's further from the finish. But yeah, I think if you've got, especially since you've got like Groupama FDJ here with a full lead out for Piffy, you've got Trek here with pretty much a full lead out for Milan. You've got Visma Bike, who have recently added Tim van Deken into their team, so that's a good little bolstering to their lead out train. But they've got some climbers in there, so they can put some pressure on. There are teams there who are going to want to put pressure on these climbs, so it's not like there's just going to be an easy pace set. I don't think so. Stage 6, I think this is going to be a breakaway day, personally, just because last time we saw a gravel stage was when Schmid won, way back when he was on Dimension Data or whatever. It's just too up and down. Like, who's going to want to control this all day for, the unpredictability of some gravel, for your leader to get a puncture when you've been working all day? Surely people are just going to want to let this be a breakaway day. And therefore, it could be a day where the pink jersey changes. That's my opinion on it. What do you think, Dan?
I think it's fairly, there's not much to talk about at this stage, to be honest, because it's just so chaotic that it's, pick names out of the hat for this day, to be honest. Could be absolutely anybody.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the thing is, the pink jersey may well change hands here to somebody. I mean, we'll talk about those people when we get onto Velogames in a minute, but then you got the TT immediately afterwards where they may well lose it because, I mean, Pogacar is the big favourite for this stage. G, Ganna, Sheffield. Just a lot of the Ineos team, actually, funnily enough. And there'll probably be more GC riders in there than people are expecting because of the climb at the end. Like somebody like O'Connor, Tiberi as well will be good options, I think, for this stage 2. Stage 8 to Plateau de Tivo. We saw this quite recently. Was this the one where Lutsenko beat both of the UAE riders in the Giro d'Abruzzo? Or am I...
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Lutsenko wins here again. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this because we're getting to the point now where if UAE team Emirates are leading, are they just going to let this be a breakaway?
It looks like a breakaway day to me because you've got the climb out of neutral, and then you've got that long second category climb, and then the final is, what's that? It's 15K at 7%. So it's not you're not dropping GC riders on that. It would be like a classic Tirreno sort of GC bunch sprint at the end. So are you going to pace really hard all day just to get the break back and then get 10 seconds at the line, or at least there's bonus seconds there as well. So it's a classic sort of whoever wins after today wears the KOM jersey and then breakaway win.
Yeah. I mean, Pedro, what kind of names are you looking at to be in a breakaway today? Who might win?
This one is probably some decathlon, maybe, the Barrett Painter brothers. if they lose enough time in the TT. Maybe even a Baudin. Let's see who they go for. But then those kind of riders, you know, because it's, after all, it's not a easy day, you know. You gotta have some climbing legs to do it. But yeah, I'd say so. Like the decathlon guys, they might have the right type of characteristics for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many names who could do well here that, yeah, it's one of those where you could get the correct 6 credit rider here. It's a bit like Leknesund or Aurelian Padapensla from the Giro last year, and you know, you kind of know if your team's going to be in for a good race at this point. I think stage 9, again, it's going back to those first week sprints. This is the repeating climbs towards the end. It's not good for Malir and Jakobsen, but it is good for Milan, Coy, and Piffy. So those guys are again quite favourable. Stage 10. What do you reckon, Dan? Is this another breakaway sort of climb, not hard enough for the GC contenders? It's kind of just really long.
There's just lots of ramps and lowish percentages. It has got that sense of breakaway a day again. It's like the Giro, isn't it? Classic Giro stage where it's that long flat start where it's just 50k an hour for an hour, and then it starts going uphill, and then there's finally a selection. I just think it's going to depend completely on what Pogačar wants to do, because I can't remember the stage race that it was. It might have been Ruta del Sol last year, where every stage on paper looked horrifically hard, and he just made his team pace every single day. But then it's like it's 5 days, so you know it's a training camp effectively. Whereas this, he's got 3 weeks plus the tour to come. So it's like, are you really going to make your team pace all day up that, like, what looks like a 30-kilometer climb? So I think it's going to break away again.
Yeah, I think it's just hard because like you say, the long flat bit of a start, either the break goes immediately, you get lucky, and it goes to the break. But if it goes like here, or if it goes like here or here, UE might be like, just keep it on a tight leash, and we'll just bring it back and win a sprint at the end.
Possibility as well.
It all depends.
I mean, it's a good opportunity for them to. It's a good opportunity to let the pink jersey, because if they lose the pink jersey before the TT, you'll probably get it back after the TT, and this one might be a good option, because the stage after, it's a stage they might not want to control. So it's a good one to let the pink go if they still have it.
Yeah, I mean, stage 11 could be a breakaway potentially if you get the right combination going, or it could be a sprint. I think you kind of like, it's a 50-50 there. Stage 12 breakaway day all day. Like, who's going to want to pace this all day? This looks like that Napoli stage where who won? Thomas de Gent won a couple of years ago or something like that.
The other one it reminds me of is the stage that Sagan won when he was up there with Ben Swift.
Oh gosh,
you remember that one? Yeah, that's a deep cut. Yeah, I think that was the first race Sagan won after he had COVID as well. So we'd basically written him off at that point. And then it was, I can't remember the altitude meters. It's probably recorded somewhere, but it was just like this, jagged all day. But they weren't especially hard climbs. They were just short, like Ardennes-ish climbs. And kind of perfect for Sagan on that day. Yeah,
this is one of those stages which is very suited towards, not like climbers, but more like the plungers, like a Topscoin style. And there's not a lot of stages like that in this race. This is one of the few ones which are suited to those classic style people who I haven't really been considering too much in my team, but this is one of those stages which is really good for them. And you get a sprint, there's a rest day in there somewhere as well. And then you get another TT, which is, again, just all those names that we said earlier. Probably go to Ghana. Stage 15. Given that it's finishing at altitude, given that we've got the Mortarolo, even if it is from the easier side, it has to be a GC day, right? Considering the altitude.
Yep.
Even if UAE doesn't want to pace it, I bet you that Ineos would do, because they'll say, like, somebody else will sense an opportunity, right?
Well, yeah, there's also, you've got to think there's been 2 weeks of racing at this point, and the GC will start forming its true self. And I mean, it's been said, I think by Matt White, DS of Jayco, that Ineos have the strongest team on paper, as in for a GC team, and because they're not split down the middle like UAE are, because they've got rouleurs and a sprinter. I mean, honestly, I can see a team like AG2R. They've got a really good team for this sort of pacing all day sort of thing, and with valleys and stuff. So yeah, it's got breakaway, not breakaway. It's got GC written on it, but I can also see someone like hanging in that group, and because it's quite a short finish, like a punchy uphill finish. So I know it is at altitude, but you could get someone like breaking out of the pack like Chavez or someone and winning.
Yeah, I think if Pogačar is to crack anywhere in this race, Pedro, would it be here with the altitude? He struggled in that kind of terrain before.
Yeah, in theory, yeah. But will the competition be strong enough to drop him? I mean, if Jonas was here, yeah, probably. But with this kind of competition, I'm having a hard time believing they will crack him that bad. He might let someone go, if he has a good margin. But I don't think so. I don't think he will struggle that much in altitude against these opponents. But he might. But I don't think so. But it's gonna be very interesting. That short climb in the end. He'll probably go for someone quick, someone with also a bit of a punch of the GC guys. Hopefully Tiberi survives and fights for this stage, because it looks like if he can overcome the second to last climb, he'll probably be a good contender because of his punchy. But I don't think Pogačar will be dropped that bad.
Yeah, I think the 4.6k, 7.7%. It looks like one of those where everyone's going to get really tired up this stretch here, and then there's going to be like people just going to get dropped hard when somebody lights it up here, and you might only see I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute time gaps, but everyone's going to be there's going to be time gaps here for sure. Stage 16, given that usually how racing goes is that if you've got a big GC day, the day after tends to be like a breakaway day. It's like they don't like doing back-to-back days, and especially with this very criminal placement of this Paso della Stelvio right towards the start, and also this finish, which is just doesn't look massively difficult, in all honesty. I think this is going to be a breakaway day. It's going to form on the Stelvio, ride in the valley. It might be quite a fairly substantial group. Maybe somebody naps the KOM points up here, but it probably regroups on the valley, and then they fight it out for victory up that final climb. So I think this is a breakaway day, and maybe the stage after as well. Dan, what do you reckon? Could this be a breakaway day, or do you reckon everyone's going to be like, oh, actually, we're running out of days here. We need to get some time back?
Thing is, just you often find with the Giro that they could, depending on who's leading, they're either not all going to be GC days, but depending on Pogačar's attitude and how aggressive the racing is, they could all be. I mean, wasn't it 2 years ago or something, 3 years ago, where there were 14 breakaway stages? 13 or 14 anyway. It's a lot. Yeah. And I mean, that might have been the year Bernal won and there was no one else in the GC. But there's so many riders here, obviously, being a Grand Tour, that they're not, UAE aren't going to be able to control everything. And it might be that every day we get a breakaway and then a GC battle behind. But the thing is, a lot of these finishes just aren't that hard. It's the stage, like that stage we're looking at now, say 17, it looked pretty hard and you're going to have to control it. But the finish up to the end is, it's probably the easiest, the easiest climb of the day, apart from that third category in the middle. So yeah, it's on paper it looks harder than it might actually be, because they're kind of longish climbs at shallow gradients, but it's just about controlling who's up ahead.
Yeah, I guess kind of linking it to Velogames, because I agree with you. What if there is breakaways winning all the time, and then the GC riders are fighting for the places behind? You know, they're not actually gonna. They might not end up getting that many points. The GC riders.
No. You might just want Pog +3. Well, pick the correct 3 from all-rounder and 2 climbers, and maybe a wild card that are going to be fighting up in the breakaway. Not every day, but for the big mountain days.
Yeah, absolutely. Stage 18. This is usually where Alberto Danese comes into his own and gets his win. Stage 19. Again, I think this is a breakaway day. The climbs just aren't hard enough for the GC contenders, and maybe somebody maybe somebody tries in the GC group tries to grab a few seconds by attacking. But I think this is a breakaway day. And then stage 20, I'm gonna guess is going. This looks like it should be a break. Well, it could be either. I think it depends again on the attitude of the riders in the peloton. This could be just a breakaway day for some, I don't know, some climber.
Well, it's one of the few days that has a pretty big descent in it, and there's one guy on the start list who is kind of famous for his descending. And that's Bardet. So I'm not saying that Bardet is going to raid this stage, but if Bardet's either off GC or he's like, I don't know, 20 seconds from the podium, and he wants to put a nervous Geraint Thomas or Ben O'Connor under pressure, it's that kind of day. And it, yeah, I mean, it's a really weird stage to look at because you've got these 2 massive mountain passes, and yet it finishes on a flat finish. So it's the kind of stage you'd look at if it was in Tirreno and go, well, that's a wasted opportunity. But at the same time, it looked perfect for a breakaway. But if you've got someone who likes descending, they might try something. But the problem is you've got obviously that big descent, and then you go straight back up again. And it's like, well, if you drop all your teammates, it's what you doing?
There's insanely more bigger climbs.
By the time they get there will be a lot of people unhappy with their results, or they thought they would have done something better, because all of the stages Poggy might win everything except for sprints, he won't, but there will be some people trying to do something because it's their last chance, because Rome is pretty flat, right? And for the climbers, the ones between top 5 and 15 that thought they were gonna do better, they might attack here and make their teams set an high pace in the first climb and then try something. It all depends on how things go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, Pedro, then the last stage is just around Rome, and it'll be a sprint. Whoever
or Milan and Groves win.
Oh,
or not win.
Yeah, that did happen last year.
A Volta breakaway.
It can always happen. It always can. But I mean, we've spent a lot of time looking at the stages now, but we will now go and take a look at Velogames. Let's finally talk about it. Tadej Pogačar is 32 credits. And yeah, based upon what we were just talking about with the stages and the attitude of teams and Pogačar, it depends how they race it. He has in the past exceeded. I think he's got 3,400 points. That was in the 2022 Tour de France, but he was, he was just insanely good there. And he could very well do the same here. I mean, are you two considering a team without Pogačar, or you just kind of need him, don't you?
There's no point not taking him, to be honest. It's just a waste of, I mean, not to discredit other riders, but unless Pogačar crashes, it's like you need to pick him. Now, if he crashes, then sure, you got your team of Geraint and Bardet and whoever else, which, it's going to do fine. But the rest of the time it's going to be like, oh, you've missed out on another 250 points.
I mean, I don't think it's just a question of whether he's going to be worth it or not, you know, by the 100 points rule. It's a bit about your heart, we have peace. If you don't take Pogacar, it's 21 stages, 23 days with the rest days. I mean, if you just set this one on fire, you'll regret for the rest of your life not taking him. And everybody's gonna have Pogacar probably like 90%. So if he doesn't perform, it's not gonna be a disaster for your team.
Yeah, exactly. Like you either pick him and everybody suffers together, because if he does crash out, and like if he does crash out and you are like the minority of people who didn't pick him, it's kind of like you've won because of this like incredible luck almost, rather than sensible picking, to be honest. But you know, sometimes that's the way that Velogames works. Geraint Thomas, 22 credits. I mean, as I said in my preview, I don't think a lot of people will pick Geraint just because picking him and Poggy is really difficult to do. So I don't think Geraint's going to get picked a lot. But when you look, he did exceed at this cost. He did exceed his 100 points per credit last year, and he didn't like do amazingly well. He didn't actually win any stages. He was just very consistent. And I do think that Geraint is a solid choice, but yeah, you just have. It depends on whether you think he's going to finish on the podium or not, or whether this is like the Grand Tour where G will not perform. But
I mean, I think this is the one where he doesn't perform. I mean, how many more times can he keep doing this? Not performing throughout the season and just smashing.
Have you met Geraint Thomas? Is what he does.
I know, it's not going to work one of these times.
Sometime it won't work exactly. I'm not confident taking him, and also taking Pogacar is obviously out for me. But I don't think it's that great of a pick, in my opinion. Yeah. But he might just do a Geraint Thomas and be totally worth it. But I think this time, this is it.
This is it this time. I mean, he'll do fine in the TTs as well. That is like definitely to his advantage, for sure. And if Ineos get in the lead of the race somehow, it will be breakaway galore, because for some they really love just letting breakaways go. Bardet, I mean, yeah, he was good in Tour of the Alps and he came second at Liège, so no real problems there. But I don't know, at 16 credits, I can't quite bring myself. I would rather take O'Connor personally, because I just think that O'Connor's got he's got a better TT, he's got a better team around him as well, and I don't know. I just think those sorts of things add up.
I think there's Bardet's been performing so well recently, and he's been so unlucky crashing out of Grand Tours recently that he. I don't really think he needs a team around him particularly. He'll just follow and attack, do Bardet things. I mean, I can see him. I mean, it doesn't help. It's a reduced quality of Grand Tour start list, shall we say. But I can definitely see him on the podium in Rome.
How can you? Because I was just going to say that looking back towards last year's scoring, so Roglic got the most points, then Geraint, and then Almeida. Only 5 people got 1,600 points or above last year. And I'm saying that's the benchmark for Bardet at 16 credits, is that kind of 100 points per credit. One of them was Derek G, one of them was Milan, so they're kind of like not really comparable here. The other ones were Roglic, G, and Almeida, because obviously they were the podium finishers. So pretty much for Bardet or O'Connor, like for them, one of those guys to be worth it, they're going to probably need to be on the podium. So it's kind of whichever one you think is going to do that. And that's just like personal preference, really. I think Caruso and Tiberi. I mean, I think Tiberi is a good choice. His TT is actually quite good. You know, look back to Torino, it was solid there. But yeah, being such a young rider, he does have leadership.
First Grand Tour.
Yeah, I think he did with Vuelta last year.
Did he? Okay,
yeah.
His first Giro then.
Yeah, his first Giro.
I mean, I would pick. Maybe it's just because some part of me is too sensible for my own Velogames self, but I would just pick Caruso every day over Tiberi. Just because you know what you. Yeah, well, just because Caruso's so solid, he's the Italian Geraint Thomas. Like you know what he's going to do. Tiberi, to be fair, Tiberi has got a good punch, but the problem with that is he's just going to come second or third to Pogačar, and that's even if it's a GC day. There's a hard. I mean, it's an exciting thing with the Giro, picking the young ones that haven't done a massive amount before, but I trust Caruso more. And I'd pick Tiberi if there were youth classification points, because he would get loads of those, seeing as Pogačar doesn't qualify for that anymore. But I mean, at the same price, I'd go Caruso personally.
What do you think, Pedro?
I think they are both good choices, but Caruso is safe. He's gonna do well. He's gonna be in good shape. But for me, Tiberi, because like we said, while we were analyzing the stages, most of them are not even that hard. The ones that finish in a mountaintop finish, in terms of percentage, and Tiberi seems to have that punch, and he might be the one fighting with Poggi in some of them. But of course, like Dan said, first Giro, and if he goes for GC, does he have what it takes to do 3 weeks at the highest level to be worth the 40 credits? But for me, if I had to choose between one of them, it would be Tiberi.
Yeah, I think both of them are decent. I think one of them's going to do well. Caruso got just shy of 1,400 points last year, and he finished 4th, but he was worth 10 credits last year. And I must admit, I did think that Tiberi might be maybe 12 or 10 credits, and I think he would have been really worth it there. But 14 credits it has made me question it a little bit. And Caruso also, I don't know, he was on the podium of Romedy last year when he did well, and he DNF'd Romedy this year with illness, I think, is what the race report said. So I just don't really know. I've got question marks over both of them, to be honest. But what about a Rensman? Dan, I know that you're feeling. I think you're quite high on a Rensman. So why? I guess.
Why? I wouldn't say I'm high on him. It's just that he's developed very slowly and well. So I like picking him, even if I mean, he's not the punchiest guy in the world, but he's a classic 2010s Ineos guy, where he's a solid diesel. He doesn't really get dropped hard anyway. He might drop off the back a bit like he did at Tirreno, but that was, Vingegaard's attacking, so you're going to do that. He's got a good TT. He's pretty solid. I like him at 12, to be honest. I think I would much rather take Arensman at 12 than G at 22. So I think they both score similar points, but Arensman will probably score more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I love him on my team, because it's just not a very exciting pick, because he's a bit like Almeida. He'll just finish 5th on every GC day. And then maybe get 3rd with a good time trial or something. But he's not a punchy guy.
Yeah, no, he's solid. Yeah, there's no
solid. Yeah,
there's no problems with Arensman. Like you say, it might not be the most exciting, but he might just get the job done. 10 credit riders. You've got Dunbar, Lutsenko, and Plapp. I mean, I guess
all of them.
I guess I'd pick Lutsenko, I suppose.
They're
just also inconsistent.
Yeah, it's like,
they are expensive gambles.
Yeah, it's like what is this? Going on here.
Lutsenko, I think the press release from Astana said that they pushed him up. Like, he was supposed to not be doing the Giro, and he was just going to do the Tour. and then he left Romandy with illness, and now he's doing the Giro, which I don't know how that makes sense that way around.
I think it's because the UCI, when you look at the UCI rankings, Astana are doing
there's that. But they've also got 2 sprinters, so they can farm. They've got Ballerini and Cantor to mop up 8th and 7th on the sprint stages. They've got Lorenzo Fortunato to get 15th on GC and maybe 4th the KOM. So yeah, Lutsenko can get a top 10 and have a nice holiday in Italy.
Yeah, gets breakaway points. Yeah, I think that of the 3, I'd pick Lutsenko just because I think he's got better breakaway capability. But V8s, I would pick Maori, I suppose, of them. I just think Foss and Grossschartner are just domestiques, so they're not going to get that many points. Schachmann has just been a little bit inconsistent the last couple of years, and therefore Mario van Zevenhond is de facto the best one. And I think it's really
there's nothing much. There's nothing much to say it really. Like, I think they're all like the ones above them. They're all a bit meh.
Yeah.
Maybe Foss if he decides to do a good TT.
True.
That's it.
True.
Yeah.
We still. It would be one of his last time trials in the World Champs jerseys. So, wait, hang on. No, sorry. He did. He was. We've had Glasgow since then, haven't we?
Oh yeah.
Who won Glasgow? Tarling. Was it Tarling? Remco. It's Remco. I'll get there eventually. Blooming heck.
Yeah. If you just keep going through all the top ones, you'll get eventually.
Yeah. Never mind.
I just think on the whole, this all-rounder category is just a bit weird. I don't know. I like outside of Poggy.
They're all rouleurs, basically. They're all rouleurs who can climb.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah, they're all
except for Bardet.
You get like GC riders down to like here, and then you just get a lot of breakaway people. I don't really get it. Anyway, climbers, O'Connor, 16 credits. I mean, it's like I said earlier. I think it's him or Bardet. But I think either one of those could definitely do well. They're both fine. They're both, there's just no problems with either of them. Both of them have had good showings of form this year, and honestly, it's just a personal preference for which one you prefer. Danny Martinez. I've seen hype around Danny Martinez, and I just do not get it.
That's me.
Dan, please. What's going on with Danny Martinez?
Well, he's got a really good TT. He's several time Colombian TT champ. He's got a really good punch on him. He won I think he's won Algarve once or twice. So that's a classic sort of draggy sort of climb, then a punchy finish sort of thing. The Bora team is mainly what's giving me hype around him because there's no one else apart from Lipovitz, who obviously is the hype man from Romandy. To use an inside joke, he's the Florian Cepeda of this this Giro. I don't mean for him to not do anything, but it would just be classic for someone to do really well at a race before the Giro and then do nothing in the Giro. But yeah, that team is, Danny Van Poppel got a free roll, and then it's all sort of Gamper and Aliotti and Schachmann. So Danny Martinez, if they're going to get GC points, it's going to be him, probably, plus Lipovitz. I just really like Danny Martinez's style. Like, since he got the goatee, he's basically the Colombian Alaphilippe, and he's just he looks so aggressive on the bike, and it's really cool. But he also often disappears.
I mean, you are right. I mean, I guess I'm thinking maybe from too much of a GC perspective, where I'm thinking in terms of GC, he's never really performed over 3 weeks, other than when he was Bernal's domestique and he finished in
5th. Yeah.
But I'm not, in terms of actual GC performances over a Grand Tour, he's just not proven. But maybe I'm not seeing, I think
there's almost no pressure on him for this one because, Jai Hindley, they've got all their GC guys going to the Tour and the Vuelta. So it's basically a free hit. For the whole team, it's almost a free hit because you've got a load of intermediate guys, then Danny Van Poppel, Lipovitz, and Danny Martinez. It's like, well, I'm not saying there's no expectation on him because he's pretty paid quite well at Bora, having left Ineos as a GC prospect. But, I like him. I like him more than the other 12, that's for sure.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Ida Brooks. Oh, gosh. After I took him at the Vuelta last year, he is the epitome of not very exciting, but will probably get about 900 points or something. Just
yeah.
But he will lose
Yeah.
so much time with the TT, and it will be a
Bank
painful
him for
watch.
8th now.
Yeah, literally.
It's actually pretty similar to Almeida, you know. It's
Yeah.
consistent, but always lacks something. Not well. Almeida has the TT, which is, but Jan, he'll be consistent, but that's it. He's not super exciting. He won't be on the podium probably. You know,
Yeah.
not a bad call. He's gonna be there. He's gonna score a few points, but not exciting.
Yeah, it's like one of those. I think Dan's kind of semi-convinced me. Like, if you get to pick one, it's probably Martinez, because at least he might get some stage points because he's just got a bit more of a sprint and he's got a better time trial. So at least you're getting those points in. Whereas Brooks is just like this diesel who's just going to be like.
I think I'll have to say that Martinez is gonna be in the fight for the KOM.
Oh. I think that's a good shout, to be honest with you. If he drops out of GC, he could be a big contender for sure.
And then he'll score a lot of points. If he goes for the and KOM, he'll score a lot of points. Yeah, and it will be worth it if he decides to do that.
And then you got Nairo, who I'm not sure if anybody's picking, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure why you would do.
The Colombians will. I know someone who will.
I just don't get why you'd pick him. He just hasn't looked good enough this year, to be honest with you.
You say that, he'll go mop up the KOM now.
Yeah, he might do. He honestly might do. 8 credits. There are quite a few to be going at. Dan, who's your favourite one of these 8 credit climbers?
I mean,
who do you think would be best?
To be honest, I only have one favourite. The others are all a bit inconsistent and meh. Well, not inconsistent, sorry. Just a bit meh. Alaphilippe for me is like on his own level in that lot. Because he could go stage hunting, he could go for KOM. Yeah, he could do whatever he wants, really. Seeing as it's probably his last year at Quick-Step, or last Grand Tour at Quick-Step. I mean, I do like Lipowitz is the really exciting one, because he's this new young kid on the block who could get a top 10 on GC maybe. Pozzovivo is just, again, he's a boring yet consistent one. But yeah, all the others are kind of could go KOM, could win a stage, could do anything, and it's all a bit uncertain for my liking.
Yeah. What about you, Pedro?
I mean, I agree with Dan. They all might do something like win a stage or something, you know. But Lipowitz looks good, but he's unproven on GTs, and maybe Storer, because it's basically Tudor's hope for the mountain stages. You might go for the KOM initially and just start scoring some points, and the ones like, let's say, Martinez, who decides to go for it later after he sees that he's not consistent enough for GC, and he already has an advantage. But that's pretty much it. It's basically, if you get the right 8 credit rider here, it's a bit of luck, to be honest, because they all can do extremely well and score a lot of points, or do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I quite like Lipowitz just for the excitement factor, but it's a big risk, I think, based upon pretty much just riding the wave of Romandy. And that's the only, like, if it wasn't for the Romandy performance, we wouldn't even be talking about him. So it's quite a, like recency hype, basically, that's making us think about him. I mean, Micah's, again, pretty boring, but might just get assist points and might be finishing top 15 just by being a domestique for Pogacar. Storer, like you say, I like as well. Rubio was 11th in GC last year. Maybe he could do something similar, where he could, he'll drop, an hour in the TTs, and then he'll just, but then he'll go into the breaks, and maybe he gets his points that way. That's certainly something else. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the names that you said were good. And then the 6 credits are surprisingly light on the ground. I thought there's usually quite a few of these, but I think Juanpe is the best because, I mean, him and Pellizzari are the same cost, but Juanpe pretty convincingly dropped him in Tour of the Alps, so I guess I'll go with him.
I think Pellizzari is a neo pro, isn't he? Because he came from L'Avenir. He came like top 10 at L'Avenir, I think, last year.
Yeah.
That Del Toro won. So he, you know, Pozzovivo said he's going to be looking after him for a GC spot. So you know, it might be Bardiani 10th and 11th or 10th and 9th GC, but I like him as exciting as a 6. I think he's in my team. If I haven't looked in a while, but yeah, Juanpe is the obvious one. But Attila Volta's kind of decent as well because he will get assist points for Koi winning sprints, and there's not much else in that Visma team, so he'll have a free license to do whatever he wants. Probably go for KOM.
Yeah. I guess it's Juanpe, Pellizzari, probably. I'd love to see Chavez win a stage and fight for something, but I think Juanpe is the safe call here, and I believe at 6 credits that's where you want to go with a rider that you know is gonna score and won't compromise the rest of your team.
Yeah, I think Juanpe could be one of the more highly selected riders in this whole race. Like he could be towards 30% or something because Lidl Trek don't have a lot of climbers in their team, so Juanpe will be quite good. But sprinters, oh god, I feel like sprinters are the biggest head scratcher almost in the whole thing because when you look at all the numbers of previous sprinters, generally the expensive ones aren't that worth it. Philipsen did kind of break that last year at the Tour, but when I did all the maths last year of the most efficient riders, like best points per credit riders, sprinters just don't get up there in the Grand Tours. The only one was Milan last year because he was 8 credits and he got 1,600 points. But generally the sprinters just aren't that worth it. But I mean, with all that in mind, you've got Coy Malir here at 14 credits. Malir, I mean, maybe he's faster on a flat sprint, but we looked at the profiles earlier and there's just not loads of those. There's little small climbs in there which are just going to make Coy a better choice. So for me, 14 credits, you just have to go with Coy. I think that's that. And I think in terms of the 12 credit riders, you go with Milan over Jakobsen, because why the hell would you go with Jakobsen when you got Milan there? Especially since Milan's got like an amazing lead out.
Yeah, I'm not. I honestly think the sprinters can be the shortest section of this video because you either pick Coy and because he's potentially the best of them that can both climb and do well in Chiclamino, or you go for Milan because he did it last year against a reduced field of sprinters because it was really only Pedersen, if I remember, that he was sprinting against consistently. And I think he only won like one stage as well. It's like 2nd or 3rd all the time. But honestly, I'm quite happy picking someone who's, you know, nearly a quarter of the price of all of them. Sorry, a third of the price of all of them. Cantor at 6, just because I just need him to be consistent in the sprints. And if he might go for the points jersey, who knows? Because Cav's not there, and he was in really good form in the uphill finishes, well, at least the uphill sprints at Turkey. So, I mean, I'm very much of the opinion of spend as little on your sprinter as you possibly can.
I think you are kind of onto something there. Cutting out all the crap, just cutting out all the people who are just unnecessary. I would go with Coy, I would go with Milan, I would go with Piffy, I would go with Cantor, and I would possibly consider Lund Andresen after Turkey. Because if I think that Jakobsen gets dropped, he will be sprinting. And that's the maybe. And those are like the only names I'm even like considering, to be honest with you. Are there any other names which you would throw in there?
I don't think so. For me, it's either Milan or Piffy or both, which is probably not the smartest option, but that's what I have right now. But I guess Milan is probably worth it, to be honest. If not, it's gonna be like 50 credits from the goal. I believe it's gonna do very well. Is my sprinter right now. And if you want a cheaper choice, I agree with Dan. Cantor. And I like to point out Leonardi. He's consistent. If you have a few spare credits as your wild card and you want a cheap sprinter, Leonardi might be consistent enough to be worth it. Now I'm pretty confident on him. Not sure why. He has okay results. All the others are just nope. They're not.
Yeah.
Of course, we know Dainese is going to win a stage, right? So we have to take that into consideration. You do the math, and then you decide if it's worth it or not.
Yeah. To sort of explain my reasoning for not liking the expensive sprinters is that the end of tour points just aren't favourable towards them. If you win the Ciclamino, you get 120, which is the equivalent of finishing 13th in GC. So you get the same points as Fortunato, basically, for winning Ciclamino, which, you know, basically, for Coy to be worth it, he's going to have to win, like, 6 sprints, basically, and win Ciclamino. And just think about how likely that is to happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that the likelihood of it happening against a really good sprint field is not like a guarantee, which is why I think that like Milan's a bit better because he needs to only win like his like kind of his ease of getting to that worthwhile points is better, and he's got a better lead out train. That's why Piffy's good because he's very versatile and he's got the whole team around him, so he only needs to be up there in like every sprint but like 7th, and maybe he does really well in the sprints where there's the climbs in there. And he like can easily get like a top 3 because he's, you know, there's no Melia, there's no Jakobsen or whatever. So, and Cantor, like you say, Dan, I think he's pretty good climbing as well. Like he's not bad. So yeah, for me, it's those names. Coy, if you like can really afford it, by all means, go for him. But yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, for me, it's like Milan Piffy is my 2 that I'm considering. And I think Piffy will be quite heavily selected. Just based upon the hype of this year, actually. Which has been really good.
And he's kind of the only star rider for FDJ as well. So
yeah,
it'll be him or breakaways for them, I think.
Yeah, like they'll be all around him pretty much, won't they? So, yeah, I think that's that pretty much. But moving on to the unclassified riders, the 8 credit guys, I can never bring myself to bring an 8 credit rider into my team. You've got Baggioli, Ganna, and Laporte. I would say Baggioli's just too hot and cold. Ganna will do good in the TTs, and he's probably the best of the 3. And then Laporte's just a lead up man.
Yeah, they're not. None of them are on a different parkour with a different roster. I think they're all excellent options for different reasons. But in this race with the teams they have, they're unfortunately not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're on to the 6 credits where there is just so many where I think what we're just going to do is I'm just going to say names and then I'm going to get to the end of my list and then we'll see if there's anybody who, if you agree, or other people who you want to throw in there as well. I like Mikkel Bjerg for the TTs and the GC and the kind of assist points he'll get. I like Simon Carr because that stage he won at Tour of the Alps. I like Fortunato for finishing top 15 in GC. I like, in a strange way, I like Keplinger. I don't know why, but I just kind of.
He's really random, but he is very consistent. So.
Yeah, and like the UAE Tour TT, he came like 5th in like a completely.
And he did. Flat... I swear he was top 10. Was he top 10 at Romandy as well?
Like Communitat Valenciana GC as well earlier this year. And Bahrain even saying that.
Isn't he like a mountain biker or something? I swear he comes from mountain bike.
No idea. And Bahrain even say that he's just kind of like a. Basically, they can like spring a surprise with him because nobody really knows about him. And I was like, cool, that sounds exciting. But anyway, onwards, the Palapentra brothers, Pig and Zoli. Sheffield for the TTs. And yeah, I won't take up everyone. Those are the names which I really like. Dan.
Pretty much what you've said, plus basically any AG2R. So at the moment I've got Tronchon, and one of the Parapanthers is probably Aurelian. So I like Tronchon because, to be fair, their team is so stacked, and Poggy is probably going to dominate so much they could just send their guys up the road to get anything stage wise. And Tronchon was excellent at the beginning of the year. Well, you know, just because that's the season we've had so far. So I think he was second or something in one of the French up and down races. I like any of the UAE domestiques, to be honest, because if Poggy's in pink from the start, even if he gives it away and he's like 3rd or 5th on GC. I mean, a lot of these are very much sort of like just not pick your poison, because that's harsh, but you know, pick ones you like. Like Will Barter will probably be in loads of breakaways, and he might nab a stage randomly because they haven't paced properly, like it happened in Andalusia, I think it was.
It's one of those, wasn't it?
So somebody strong. Aniel Kowalski actually is probably, even though he's probably the least what's the right term? He's the least one that's going to be really consistent in all the stages. Because he's only going to be a sprinter. That was a really bad sentence, English. But I'm surprised he's not in a sprinter category, because I know Cofidis are rubbish at the moment, but he's still a sprinter. It's Aniel. I mean, I had Aniel Kowski at the start, because once it was pointed out, I just thought, well, he's going to be in contention for as many stages as the 14 credit sprinters are. So why not?
Yeah.
And he was good. I swear he was good at Tirreno or somewhere.
Yeah,
he was good somewhere this year.
Yeah, he has been good this year at some. I think his UE Tour he got top 10 or 2, and I think his Tirreno he got.
I think he was pretty consistent last year at Human Powered Health as well. I swear, like in the classics, he was all right. So yeah, I like finding that, like Chimolai as well. Those sprinters who are for some reason in the Unclassified.
Yeah, and Pedro.
6 credits. I really like Björg. I believe he'll do very well in the TT, and he has Poggy. He will probably score some assist points. I like Davide Baez. He'll be in the breakaways for sure. He'll score some points too. Fortunato for a possible top 15, 20 maybe. Sheffield, if you believe that G is gonna podium, is a good call too. Of course, Anielkowski and Trentin, if you believe they'll do something in the sprints too. Tratnik is not a bad one, but I really like the opportunities for Björk because of the TTs. And I think he's, in my opinion, the best 6 credits rider.
Really?
There are a lot to work with. There are a lot of options. Tronchon too, the Parapanthera brothers, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, they're gonna fight for stages, I believe. And those are probably my favorite riders. Costu is also not a bad pick too. And that's it, I guess. But you have a lot to work with. If you need a 6 credit rider or 2, you have great options. It's not a problem.
You got some really great options, I agree. Yeah, I completely forgot about Trentin, because if you think that probably Dan Hayes is going to get dropped, then Trentin will fall in as the sprinter. So it's actually quite a sensible option. But yeah, you got varying degrees of risk in there, and varying degrees of kind of like risk reward. I think I quite like Fortunato, I suppose, because I'm thinking about Leknesund and Dunbar from last year and how they were the most successful 6 credit riders, and they were like in the GC battle. So I guess I'm thinking more from that sort of perspective. But yeah, I also like Simon Carr. I just think that this looks like a, breakaways. It looks like Mile Azura. It's
a lot of the stages look like sort of Mallorca Challenge stages that he was winning, don't they? Where they're not massively hard, but also they're probably hard enough for the GC guys to go, we'll let them get the breakaway go.
Yeah. I just think that I don't know. I've just got a thing that I think Simon Carr could be really good. But yeah, I agree. I think I like Bjerg for the assist points and the TTs. I think that you just got a lot to be going at. I'm a Palapentlas. I don't know which one you'd choose. To be honest, if you only had to pick one.
I think Valentin is the punchy one because he was the one setting up Ben O'Connor for his win at UAE Tour. And then Aurélien is this kind of, well, as we know, because we picked him for 1,000 years in the Giro before. He's just this consistent mountain domestique, effectively. But obviously, didn't he win that Tour of the Alps stage in a sprint?
Yeah, he won. Yeah,
he did. Yeah, because Tiberi was second and Valentin was third. So yeah, I mean, it's clearly something about those Van Rysel bikes is working. So I think either of them or both of them is pretty good. Because even if they're just domestiques, they'll score quite a lot, not as many points, obviously as Bjerg, but in that region for assist points. Yeah. And then I just think at some point all of that team, AG2R team, will be letting the breakaways to do something.
Yeah,
not at the same time, obviously, but in separate times.
but they're just a team on the roll, aren't they? Like they're just doing really well, and I think
it's mad how many stages they're winning and how many top 10s they're getting. It's or even 1-2s, 1-3s. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, like they've got enough talent where they can afford to send a rider into the breakaway, be it a Palapentla or Tranchant and
they should be, because otherwise UAE are just going to win everything, and it's going to
you may as well make the most of it. And then and then you get onto the 4 credit riders where maybe there is a Derek G hiding in here somewhere. Maybe.
Well, as Irfan isn't here, we'll have to say his pick at 4, which is Marco Frigo, who was third on that stage. We've been predicting Ben Healy and McNulty to win a stage at some point in that Giro, and they ended up doing it the other way around to what most people predicted. But I think he was third in that second or third time that they'd been the breakaway together.
Yeah. And then he was 5th on the stage which Filippo Zana won. So he is good, to be fair. You get the 2 UAE guys if you just want to get the assist points and run. Well, other than that, like I don't know. Like,
Journey for the TTs, but then it's not very inspiring because he's not going to get any GC assist points.
Yeah, that's true.
It is pretty. I think Riley Pickrell. Not Riley. Sorry, I think of Sheehan. I always get Pickrell and Sheehan the wrong way around.
Pickrell was. Do you remember Tour de la Provence?
Yeah, he was the one coming like second or third to behind Zingler and Pedersen.
I just think
stocky, punchy. Yeah,
maybe he gets involved in a sprint, like on an absolute win.
Yeah, or if Ethan Vernon, if he's setting up Ethan Vernon, sure.
Yeah, I think I did read the Israel Premier Tech team announcement early, and Vernon said something about this being a really good training block for the Olympics.
Oh, super!
So this is just the training ride.
I'll tell you what that sounds like. Not to get PTSD, but that sounds like something Ethan Hayter would say.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't.
These Team GB guys, seriously.
Yeah.
They need to get their priorities sorted out.
But then,
you need to think about the Giro, not the bloody Olympics.
Yeah. He said something about the rotating sprints with Hofstetter and Riley Pickrell. Okay. So
well,
maybe
they're going to have to, really, aren't they, to keep them happy?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think Ethan Vernon could do. I know we're not on sprinters or 6s that are sprinters, but he could do really well in that one of those the second time trial because it's flat. So, but anyway, that's just. I would love to pick Ethan Vernon. I just don't think he's again that Olympics, and it's the same thing as Ganna. I think. I mean, Ganna's not a sprinter, but it's just not the right time for them to be not the right time to be picking them.
Yeah, I mean, I like Mattia Weiss too. He actually has some okay results. You know, he was third at Giro della Romagna, only beaten by Morgado and Johan Bau, I guess. So it's not a bad call. Of course, the UAE guys, you know, for the assist points, Baudin, and there is a Luca Covilli. I mean, if you believe in a lot of breakaways, fighting for stages, the one in the mountains is not bad. It's not super, but it's not bad. It's an okay too. We might do something. I mean, it's Bardiani. They all have a shot. So yeah, but right now I have a lot of 4-pointers in my team. So
So you're an expert in this.
yeah,
you
know,
Pedro's been literally looking through every single one of these riders past 5 years of history to try and find something.
I need 3 of them, so I better start.
You're trying to find that one stage they came top 15 in.
Yeah. So what kind of stage is this guy good in? Oh, he was really good in, the Tour of Azerbaijan 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
Let's not slander that race, God.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I always say Tobias Bayer, so I may as well just say that again. Maybe he can do well. But I agree. I think the Green Project Bardiani people. I did actually look at Cavilli earlier, and also what's his name, Martinelli. They're not bad. I remember
not pro sprinters, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, based upon the fact that Derek G just did well off of one Paris-Roubaix breakaway, and that's all that everybody had to go on. I saw Enzo Pellini in the break at Tour of Romandy the other day, and so therefore he might do very well. So yeah, that's solely based upon that's what Derek G did last year. So maybe he could do it, especially since
someone is going to have the person that does it, and it's just who it's going to be.
A Groupama FDJ rider who's fairly light might get him a breakaway because they've only got Piffy. That's there you go. That's about the only logic I can give on to you. So yeah, I don't know. Everybody's guess is as good as ours, pretty much with that. Just go searching through people's results and see what comes up. But anyway, I guess this is the time where I reveal my team. This is what I've got at the moment. I've got 3 GC riders for Poggy, Tiberi, and O'Connor. I've got Piffy as my sprinter, and then I've got essentially like 4 breakaway riders with 5 with Juanpe, Fortunato, Simon Carr, Frigo, and Lipovitz. I'm still in 2 minds whether to go Frigo and Lipovitz or 2 6s. I don't really know. I could just go with both of the Paddy Pentler brothers in there. But it always feels like a bit of a waste to use an Unclassified in the wildcard slot,
Yeah.
I could definitely go with...
I feel like the wildcard has to be either a low-key GC or a sprinter, versatile sprinter. Because for some reason, or just connotatively with the word wildcard is like, he's your extra big rider. So
yeah, exactly. So it just feels a little bit like, I could go with...
It does seem a waste to go, Valentin Paripantra.
Yeah, Cantor is my wild card. It's like wild card for
don't joke. He's my wild card at the moment.
It's like, I don't know. So I could go with... So I'm kind of between an 8 and a 4 or 2 6s. I don't really know. I think I like Lipovitz, but it's just because of the recent hype, and I just have this thing of maybe he's going to do well in the first 2 stages. And then, like you say, down Bora don't have a big... Like, they've got Martinez, but they'll probably let Lipovitz go in the break quite a lot, I expect. So he's got, like, that freedom element. But, again, I just don't know whether he is going to be like Cepeda and just do absolutely nothing in this race, and I will just be kicking myself. Especially considering how many good 6-credit riders there are in this race. But, Dan, who have you got in your team at the moment?
Well, I'm about to go change it, but about 80% of it. I would say about 80% of this is right. We've got Pogacar. Lutsenko is going to be changed. O'Connor, Alaphilippe, Pithy, Paripantra. It doesn't matter which one. It'll be one of them. Piganzoli, Tronchon, and Lipovitz. But I'm probably going to downgrade Piganzoli and Tronchon to a couple of 4s maybe. And then that means I can upgrade Lutsenko and Lipovitz. Lipovitz just feels like the perfect wildcard rider for me.
He does. I completely agree.
And 8 is a perfect price as well because it's expensive enough to justify it, and it's not so cheap. You think, well, that's a waste.
If he was 6 credits.
If he was 6, I'd think, just stick him in. It doesn't matter. But that's how I feel about. The thing is, there's 3 I really like who are sort of cheap and doing it for the first time, which is Lipovitz, Piganzoli, and Pellizzari. I just worry about the younger guys more because they're neo-pros. So that's me, but I can't see it changing an awful lot. I think the locked ones are obviously Pogacar, Alaphilippe, and Pithy and O'Connor in some form, with the other 6 around them.
Yeah. And Pedro?
Right now I have Poggi, Tiberi, O'Connor, Juanpe, Milan, Mattia Weiss, Vegard Stekelangen, and Alex Baudin. And as my wild card, I have Pithy. But I mean, after this, I'm starting to reconsider my sprinters. I mean, they are in my opinion, they are the best options as sprinters.
Yeah.
But is it worth it to take both of them? And if not, what do I do? Do I go with Pithy? Do I go with Milan? If I go with Milan, who's gonna sub Pithy, and vice versa, you know? But
yeah.
I think the core of the team will always be probably Poggi, Tiberi, O'Connor, Juanpe, and one of the sprinters, and then it's just which one feels more adequate at the moment, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's tricky with the sprinters because I do think the Milan is really good. It's just just based upon like the stats and stuff, I always just, because the sprinters are by and large like the safest, if you can say that, like point getters. Like there's only like 10 sprinters who are going to be finishing in the top 10, whereas breakaways is a little bit more of a lottery. Whereas that Milan is like, just a really good option for.
I think you just have to compare. I feel like it gets a bit boring, but you have to compare the price and the points they're going to score. Because it's like you said with the whole Fortunato thing, because Fortunato could outscore someone with their end of tour points. I just think it's so gutting when you've got a 14 credit sprinter who on paper is supposed to top 3 or be in the top 3 favourites for 8 stages, and then either they get dropped or they have a puncture, and all of a sudden it's reduced. Whereas at least with, let's say you pick I don't know, Alaphilippe, Fortunato, you just know that there's 75% of the stages, 60 to 70% of the stages they're going to be eligible for.
Yeah, have riders in there who are kind of ideal for breakaways. Think about teams who don't have, who maybe don't have a lot of climbers, and focusing on those teams because they need to, like a Juanpe, with Lidl Trek or whatever, look at teams which don't have a lot of climbers and pick those climbers because, or like a Stora. That's generally like a good tip to be going with as well. And also don't focus too much on TTs. I feel like I've focused on TTs in the past. It's very easy to get swept up with, oh, well, I want to go with this person because they're going to get top 10s in the TTs. And it's like, they might do, but that's not going to but that might net you 200. Whereas like somebody like Bjerg is good because he gets the TTs plus the assists. So I would say, it's
also important to look at the makeup of the parkour, because I remember years ago, the Tour de France started with that TT prologue sort of thing in Dusseldorf, and you might not want to do it, but looking at where you're going to get the most points, because if you just load it up with TT guys, you get a week effectively, that first week of the Tour de France with TT guys getting GC points, and you're not going to get that this year with your Ganners and your Bjergs, because there's two mountain stages to start with. So even though it might not be exciting to have your sort of unclassified climbers, you could have Fortunato or some 4 credit guy scoring loads of GC points from the very first week or very first day.
You do just get those ones.
Sometimes we just focus too much on how they are gonna do, early on the Grand Tour, and we want the points immediately, and we forget like the end of tour points. I know sometimes it's hard to be not so well classified during the race, but it usually pays off in the end. But yeah, I think I have to rethink and reconsider. Also, I'm pretty scared of picking Tiberi right now.
Sorry.
I'm not sure right now. I'm not sure about it. But the thing is, when I try to go for guys who are gonna fight for the stages, in the breakaways and KOMs. I always seem to miss. And the last time I chose a guy for a KOM was Guerreiro in the Tour de France, and we all know how that went. So yeah, it's hard for me to pick guys for breakaways and stuff. But yeah, we have a lot to work with. The 6 credits, credits that are a few okay ones too. So it's just a matter of finding the right combination.
Yeah, and also just breakaway points don't really pay too well. Like, I mean, I had Ciccone on my team in the Tour last year. Yeah, wins polka dots, great, but actually you need those stage points in there as well, because Ciccone only got like, I say only, it was somewhere like 700, 800 points, but he was worth 10 credits.
Yeah.
And you really need like somebody who, if they're going to go for the Maya Azura, they need to be getting stage points in there as well, ideally, to be kind of compensating. Because yeah, just banking on getting 20 points from a breakaway and getting the 120 at the end for winning the jersey isn't actually that great. So yeah, I think those are some useful tips for us to be rounding out on. Of course, if you are here, let us know what teams you're thinking of going with in the comment section down below, and if you've got any of your own tips that can help people to create better Velogames teams, then put those in the comment section too. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and then we will see you in the next episode. Ciao.